So leaving the LGBTQ community was not easy at all. Like I said, it was very much my identity. It was something that, not even knowing me, you can just look at me and tell. So when I surrendered this to God, it was not something I wanted to let go of. It was something that I wanted to live with and still worship God. And what didn't hit me about God is that the way we love God is not the way God loves us. And the word here that I'm looking for is obedience. And that's something that I struggled with for a long, long time. I was not going to let anyone tell me what I needed to do and how I needed to live my life. I had to grow up really fast and really young, so authority was not a thing that I really reckoned with. And so here, obedience, you're calling me to give up something that has been my whole life, and going back on like, why didn't you do this sooner? And realizing that God's timing was the best thing that he could do for me, the best way he can pull me out. Because to be honest, my whole life, I've always known that there was something missing. Never did I think it was God, never, not once. But being a child who had some childhood trauma, had some mistrust placed in men, okay? So men was not something that I even wanted to think about, not something that I wanted to ever be with, whether it be sexually, intimately, marry, let alone listen to. God being one of those men, right? So here we are now where I'm screaming, love is love, love is love, love is love. But is it love? Is it love is love? It's not. And what I've realized and what it took so long for me to get a grasp of is love is not love. God is love. Because there would be no love without the ultimate sacrifice that God gave for us. God's ultimate love, agape, right, is that he sacrificed his only son for us. And if he could do that for me, I could sacrifice a life for him and surrender to him. And what that looked like for me is letting go of this obsession with my sexuality and this obsession with wanting to live a life that I wanted to live. And sexuality was amongst the biggest things that you could tell that was sinful in my life, but there were so many other things. I was getting drunk on the weekends. I was smoking weed. I was having sex. I was doing all these things with no conviction at all. And the first part of that was ultimately like realizing that I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow, because I was at events saying this is right, and I saw those people, the Christian people, saying you still have time, God loves you. And I was just like, piss off, like, you know, like who are you to come here and judge us? Like, if you say God is the ultimate judge, then why are you here? You know what I mean? I was just like so wrong in that sense, that like how ignorant I was, to say the least, to just like cast away the one who put me in my mother's womb, right? So here I am just like feeling this void. And then once I finally decided to give it a try and say, okay, God, I'll listen to you, I'll obey you. Although everything around me completely tumbled, I didn't know who I was going through an identity crisis, this peace sat still in my soul. And that was all I needed to know, that this was the life that I was supposed to be. Because my whole life fell apart. My whole life, I had no idea what was going on. But all I knew is that God called me, and if I listened, he would figure out the way. And there was a peace and a joyfulness in just knowing that I didn't have to bear it anymore. And it was like a weight came off my shoulder that I never knew I was carrying. I felt completely fine up until God revealed himself to me. And unbeknownst to me, my life was just about to begin. I'm at 25 years old, and my life that I thought I was going to live for the rest of my life was just going to be a chapter on which I could stand on and tell people like, hey, it's okay to think that you had it all figured out and be in your 25 midlife crisis, because God decided to reveal himself to you at this time. And what a better time for him to have revealed himself to me, because I was maybe 5 months away from getting married to a woman. And I strongly believe that had I got married to that woman, I don't know if God would have got me to leave that life, because It's marriage. It's sacred, right? But God revealed himself in a time where I was just really looking for something, and I had no idea it was him. And leaving that life behind has been the single most best decision I've ever made in my life. Before, like, obviously following God, but like just obeying him and surrendering myself to him. And he has completely just lifted me up and carried me along these ways. There's nothing that I've done to deserve that at all. Like I said, I was not living a great life. I was not living a life of gratitude. I was not living a life for him. I was living it solely for me. And if I could share this to anybody, the sole message would be, God is love. That's, if I could have 3 last words on my deathbed, that's what it'd be. God is love, because that sums it up. If you think you know what love is, if it's not God, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong, because the love that he has shown me and so many people in my life, just by the sacrifice that he made, it's the ultimate love.